The numbers don't lie. In America today, over 128,000 people land in hospitals each year from contaminated food, while hidden chemicals quietly poison hundreds of thousands more, and an unseen army of underpaid workers suffer behind the factory doors to keep prices low. Illness, toxins, and exploitation. Three shadows that follow every bite we take. Yet the cereal still looks cheerful, the nuggets still look golden, and the salad still looks fresh. How many of us dare ask what's really inside? How many seniors brush off memory loss without knowing mercury in canned fish is eating away their minds? How many children are fed heart-healthy cereals sprayed with weed killer linked to cancer? And how many workers are risking their lives at midnight so that we can buy food labeled clean and safe? This is the Downturn Report, where the truth gets personal. Tonight we expose what lies beneath the packaging, the mascots, and the marketing. These are the horrifying secrets of popular foods in America you would never eat if you knew how they are made. Number 1. Chicken nuggets. They slip onto plates like little golden promises. Cheap, quick, and smiling from every freezer aisle. Nuggets are the American shortcut to dinner, the "don't worry, I've got you" meal when exhaustion wins. But when you bite through that crispy shell, are you really eating chicken? Or just swallowing a lie wrapped in breadcrumbs? The horrifying secret is that what looks like comfort food is closer to a chemical trick, a Frankenstein mash glued together by machines, designed not for your health but for their bottom line. Isn't it strange that something we trusted to feed our kids in school cafeterias could just as easily belong in a junkyard blender? The truth is grotesque. Most nuggets aren't pure meat, but a slurry of mechanically separated chicken blasted off bones, tendons, and ligaments until it becomes a pink paste no grandmother would ever call food. A 2022 study revealed that over 60% of nuggets tested contained less than half real muscle meat, the rest a mixture of fat, connective scraps, and unpronounceable additives. That chicken taste you think you know? It's brewed from sodium phosphate, autolyzed yeast extract, and TBHQ, a chemical linked to butane, the same substance that helps light your backyard grill. How did lighter fluid become seasoning? Why are Americans asked to smile while chewing industrial waste disguised as dinner? And the nightmare is not only chemical. In 2023, over 29,000 pounds of nuggets were recalled after rubber shards fell into the mix from a broken conveyor belt. Children were hospitalized, one coughing up blood after swallowing a piece. Purdue's plants were cited that same year for bone fragments nearly an inch long and stray metal particles in the batches. Picture a lunchbox sandwich filled with metal splinters. Does that feel like care or like contempt hidden behind a shiny package? What makes the betrayal cut deeper is who they target. Nuggets are pushed hardest onto struggling families, seniors counting pennies, veterans surviving on disability checks. A $5 bag feels like salvation, but it's really a trap. The package screams 100% natural while whispering in cruel irony, "You don't deserve better." And that whisper grows louder when lobbyists pour millions into blocking transparency laws, making sure mechanically separated meat hides behind harmless phrases like white meat blend. Why are these products banned in countries like Austria and Norway, but considered fit for American children and grandparents? Who decided that our families are worth less? The future only looks darker. Poultry giants are phasing out human oversight and bringing in AI-powered machines that value speed above safety. Industry insiders warn that by 2026, over 70% of nugget production will be automated, and acceptable contamination levels will quietly increase. If rubber and metal already pass through today, what horrors will tomorrow's machines let slide? Will we one day read headlines about glass nuggets or worse? Fatal outcomes ignored because speed was king? And will the USDA act when profits scream louder than parents' voices? Yet the trap doesn't mean we're helpless. If your budget allows, air-chilled whole muscle patties from smaller clean-label brands like Bell & Evans show that honest chicken still exists. For tighter wallets, even plant-based options like Dr. Prager's pea protein tenders are safer than swallowing pink foam. Or go back to basics. Ground chicken thighs seasoned at home, shaped and air-fried. Real food, not factory scraps. Because in the end, the choice is chillingly clear. Keep feeding our kids the lies sold in golden crumbs, or reclaim food that doesn't gamble with our health. So ask yourself, when you see the words 100% chicken printed in bold, do you still believe it? Or do you feel deep down that you're being served not dinner, but proof that America's system has written off your family? Number 2. Ground beef. The sizzle of ground beef in a frying pan is practically the soundtrack of America. Burgers at a 4th of July cookout, chili simmering in a crock pot, meatloaf on a Sunday table. But what if that familiar smell carried not comfort, but danger? What if every juicy bite was less about nourishment and more about roulette with your health? Beneath the grease and nostalgia hides a truth that would make even the toughest rancher lose his appetite. Supermarket ground beef is a gamble stacked against ordinary people, and the stakes are nothing less than life and death. Start with this. One package of ground beef on a grocery shelf may come from over 100 different cows, often pulled from 5 or more countries. Imagine mixing bloodlines from Brazil, Mexico, and the United States in the same shrink-wrapped pack, each with different inspection standards and loopholes. USDA records show over 1.3 billion pounds of beef were imported into the country last year alone, yet only 5% of shipments were tested for E. coli or salmonella. What happens to the other 95%? It ends up in your tacos, in your burgers, in your children's lunch plates, and the consequences are already written in the numbers. In 2024, the CDC tied contaminated beef to more than 19,000 E. coli cases nationwide, at least 117 hospitalizations and 7 deaths. The highest beef-related death toll in nearly a decade. In Florida, ground beef from a plant linked to JBS USA left over 40 people hospitalized with intestinal bleeding, 2 of them children under 10. Can anyone still call it all-American beef when it sends families straight from the dinner table to the ER? Behind the scenes, it gets uglier. Investigations revealed ammonia-treated scraps, marketed as a bacterial safeguard, ended up in consumer meat despite links to respiratory harm in workers and altered pH levels in customers. Whistleblowers describe plants logging up to 800 safety violations in a single month, including rotting meat quietly blended with fresh to meet shipping deadlines. Does that sound like food, or like corporate alchemy turning waste into profit at your expense? So why do people keep buying? Because the system leaves them no choice. A pound of ground beef still sells for under $4, one of the cheapest proteins left for seniors, single parents, and families on SNAP. They see the news, they worry, but when bills stack high and budgets collapse, they sigh and think, it'll be fine this time. That resignation is the corporation's biggest weapon, turning desperation into steady sales. And thanks to aggressive lobbying, you're not even told where the beef comes from. Country of origin labels? Blocked? Transparency? Buried. In Europe, people know their meat's birthplace. In America, you get a blindfold with your burger. The road ahead is even more unsettling. USDA economists project that by 2027, over 80% of retail ground beef will be imported or blended with imports. Add climate chaos, cattle die-offs in Texas, transport bottlenecks in Kansas, and the pipeline for lower quality, loosely inspected beef from abroad is practically guaranteed. Will the next outbreak dwarf the 19,000 infections of 2024? Will hospitals groan under a flood of cases before regulators even admit the problem? And what happens when fewer companies control nearly the entire market, leaving no safe harbor for consumers? Still, small cracks of hope exist. Regional butchers like Porter Road and Beeler's sell single-animal ground beef, traceable and untreated, though at a higher price. Local farmers, markets offer the rare chance to meet the rancher behind the stake. For those counting every penny, blending a pound of safer beef with lentils or mushrooms can stretch the meal without stretching the risk. The alternatives are there, but they demand awareness, not blind trust. So when you bite into your next burger, ask yourself, how many countries are in this patty? How many strangers handled it before it hit your stove? And how long will Americans keep swallowing this gamble before deciding that cheap beef isn't worth the human cost? Number 3, hot dogs. They march through American summers like confetti, lined up on ballpark grills, steaming in street carts, sizzling at backyard barbecues. The hot dog has been sold to us as a flag-waving symbol of tradition, a shortcut to happiness you can eat in 3 bites. But what happens when that symbol turns out to be a Trojan horse? Peel back the bun, and you'll find not heritage, but horror. A tube stuffed with scraps, chemicals, and corruption that would make a butcher wince. The hot dog isn't comfort food. It's a dare wrapped in casing. At its core, a hot dog is little more than emulsified leftovers. Lips, lymph nodes, fat, and connective tissue, ground into a smooth paste until you can't tell one part from another. USDA audits revealed bone fragments in 14% of tested hot dogs and foreign matter, plastic, metal, even rodent hair, in nearly 6%. Picture that. The same odds as rolling a die and finding something inedible inside your dinner. To mask the mess, producers drown the paste in nitrates, artificial smoke, and brine until it tastes just close enough to food. It's not culinary craft. It's a magic trick turning slaughterhouse sweepings into childhood nostalgia. The chemicals are where nostalgia curdles into nightmare. Sodium nitrite, the preservative that keeps hot dogs pink and shelf-stable, has been tied to colorectal cancer in study after study. The World Health Organization placed processed meats like hot dogs in Group 1 carcinogens, the same league as asbestos and cigarettes. In 2023 alone, the American Cancer Society linked more than 52,000 U.S. cancer cases to processed meats, hot dogs leading the pack, and yet hospitals still sell them in cafeterias. What does it say about our system when the very place meant to heal serves a food ranked alongside cigarettes? But the rot isn't only in the recipe. In 2023, a Department of Labor investigation uncovered that major processors, including JBS, used underpaid migrant workers and even children on sanitation shifts. Teenagers scrubbing blood-soaked blades at midnight so a dollar store hot dog could land on a grill by sunrise. The all-American frank has become a quiet export of suffering. Labor violations sealed inside a casing no one wants to see. So why do people keep buying? Because a $2.50 pack can feed a family, because nostalgia is cheaper than truth, because parents know kids will eat them without complaint. Seniors cling to hot dogs as a bite of the past, while struggling families see them as the last affordable protein. It isn't love, it's survival wrapped in foil. And the companies know it. The future points toward even bleaker plates. With feed costs rising and climate shocks hitting cattle supplies, analysts predict that by 2026, nearly 40% of hot dog ingredients will come from foreign suppliers with weaker safety oversight. Combine that with lobbying to weaken USDA inspections, and the risk sharpens. One contaminated shipment could trigger an outbreak at a stadium or county fair, exposing tens of thousands in a single afternoon. Does anyone really believe corporations will pull the brakes before disaster strikes? And yet, choices remain if we dare to step outside the illusion. True story, organic hot dogs and Applegate's uncured beef. Dogs use real muscle meat with no nitrates or fillers. Adel's chicken apple sausages and field roast veggie brats deliver flavor without chemical sleight of hand. Even blending your own ground turkey with herbs into natural casings can bring back the taste without the poison. These are not luxuries. They are lifelines for those who refuse to trade health for convenience. But here's the question that lingers like smoke after a grill goes cold. How many more cancers? How many more kids cleaning factory floors at midnight? How many more hidden fragments in each bite before we admit that America's beloved hot dog is less about feeding families and more about feeding corporations? And if this is how we treat our iconic food, what does that reveal about how we treat our people? Number 4. Frozen pizza. It sits in the freezer like a promise. Cheap, easy, and always there when you're too tired to cook or too broke for takeout. But open that box and you're not holding comfort food. You're holding a chemical stage play. Frozen pizza isn't a meal. It's an industry cover-up where profits are baked higher than safety, leaving working families chewing on deception disguised as dinner. The cheese is often a fraud. A 2023 Consumer Reports test found major brands like DiGiorno and Red Baron use nearly 19% fake cheese. Palm oil and starch sold as mozzarella. That palm oil connects every bite to deforestation and child labor overseas. Worse, one FDA recall revealed plastic shards inside mozzarella packs, injuring at least 8 Americans who expected dinner, not a dental bill. Imagine biting into pizza and finding sharp plastic instead of melted cheese. The crust tells another horror story. Many brands rely on azotocarbonamide, banned in Europe for its ties to asthma and cancer, but still legal in US pizzas. Preservatives like propylene glycol, yes, the same chemical in antifreeze, are sprayed to stop freezer burn. In 2022, USDA, inspectors even caught a plant reusing moldy dough, fixing it with bleach before baking it back into crusts. Those pizzas weren't trashed, they were packaged and shipped to stores. And behind the scenes is human pain. In 2023, Reuters exposed underage teens as young as 13 cleaning Nestlé's frozen pizza lines in Wisconsin, suffering chemical burns and near amputations. Picture children scrubbing machines at midnight so retirees can eat a $6 dinner. How much family-friendly marketing hides behind child labor scars? Americans keep buying because exhaustion wins. A $6 pizza can feed 4. For low-income seniors, it's survival. People know it's dirty, but whisper, "Just one more time." That shrug is what corporations bank on. Yet insiders now warn that by 2026, up to 30% of pepperoni could be swapped with unlabeled plant powders, while climate shocks push wheat prices higher, forcing even more chemical shortcuts. Will the frozen aisle become a lab of experiments nobody asked for? Or will the next outbreak hit before regulators wake up? Safer paths exist. Amy's Kitchen frozen pizzas with real organics, cauliflower crusts free from banned additives, or simply non-bread topped with real cheese and veggies baked in 10 minutes. So ask yourself, that stomach cramp you brushed off after frozen pizza, was it really just indigestion, or was it your body begging you to stop eating lies? Number 5, canned tuna. That blue and silver tin feels like a friend, cheap, light, and always waiting on the pantry shelf. For decades, it's been sold as the protein of common sense, heart-healthy omega-3s packed in a can. But open it up and you're not just cracking dinner, you're cracking open a story of poison, forced labor, and oceans bled dry. Canned tuna isn't the safe staple it pretends to be. It's a trap disguised as survival food. The danger starts with mercury. In 2023, the FDA reported nearly 1 in 4 canned tuna samples exceeded safe mercury limits for seniors, children, and pregnant women. Harvard researchers estimate more than 250,000 Americans each year show elevated mercury levels tied to tuna, leading to tremors, memory loss, even kidney failure. Many of those poisoned are older Americans who depend on tuna as their cheapest protein. Imagine thinking you're protecting your heart but slowly losing your mind instead, and then comes the human toll. Investigations into giants like Thai Union and Dongwon exposed migrant crews beaten, starved, and trapped on ships for months. Some watched co-workers tossed overboard. U.S. Customs blocked shipments as recently as 2022, yet those cans still end up in our stores. Every time someone buys a $1.29 can, another person halfway across the world pays in blood and bone. Even the ocean pays the price. Industrial long lines stretching. 30 miles wipe out dolphins, sea turtles, and sharks. NOAA estimates over 80,000 dolphins die annually from tuna fishing, yet dolphin-safe labels keep appearing on cans, a marketing trick riddled with loopholes. You think you're buying responsibly, but in truth you're buying silence while the ocean drowns. Still, people keep choosing tuna because they feel cornered. For retirees on Social Security, a can is cheaper than eggs or chicken. It's resignation. Better to risk poison than face hunger. And corporations count on that fatigue. Analysts warn that by 2027, climate stress will push tuna deeper, raising prices up to 40%. That means even more shady sourcing, even more corner cutting, and lawsuits piling higher than nets. There are escapes, but they require awareness. Wild Planet and Safe Catch test every batch for mercury. Sardines and mackerel from brands like King Oscar carry more omega-3s with far less mercury. Or you can mash beans with lemon for a tuna salad that feeds your body without bleeding the ocean. But the haunting thought remains. How many more elders will quietly lose memory, mobility, and years of life while the industry smiles, insisting it's all part of a balanced diet? Number 6. Pre-shredded lettuce. It looks clean, crisp, and harmless in its plastic bag. Triple washed. Ready to eat. The kind of convenience that feels like a gift when your back hurts and your time is gone. But behind that fresh green facade lies one of the most dangerous scams in America's food aisles. Pre-shredded lettuce isn't health. It's a game of Russian roulette, loaded with feces, pathogens, and shortcuts that turn every salad bowl into a potential crime scene. The numbers are terrifying. In just the past 5 years, bagged salads have led to over 1,000 hospitalizations and 33 confirmed deaths from E. coli, salmonella, and listeria. In 2022, a dole plant in Arizona was tied to 4 deaths and 19 illnesses, traced back to filthy machinery and water laced with manure bacteria. Brands like Fresh Express and Ready Pack have issued recalls that pulled hundreds of thousands of pounds of greens off shelves. but only after people were already sick. How many times have you eaten these same bags and thought a stomach ache was just indigestion? The truth is dirtier than any farm field. Lettuce from hundreds of sources is dumped into giant chlorine baths called triple washes, but it's the same dirty water cycling through ton after ton of lettuce, meaning your clean romaine might be soaking in the runoff of feces from another farm. Workers have described cockroaches crawling over packaging belts and bag seals breaking mid-shipment. And the so-called freshness? It's achieved with modified atmosphere packaging, removing oxygen, pumping in gases, and creating the exact low-oxygen environment where listeria thrives. Your fridge doesn't stop it, it helps it grow. So why do people keep buying? Because life is exhausting. Washing lettuce feels like one more chore in a world already stacked with bills, medication, and caregiving. For seniors, bagged salad seems like the only way to keep eating vegetables without the burden of scrubbing and chopping, and corporations prey on that fatigue. Plastering safe and pre-washed across bags they know are anything but. In the future, climate change is already flooding Salinas Valley farms, washing cattle manure into irrigation water. At the same time, industry lobbyists are pushing FDA to cut back on inspections, claiming oversight slows down production. A leaked 2023 memo even showed one lettuce supplier discussing cutting sanitizer use to protect margins. Imagine the outbreaks waiting to happen if this becomes standard. Will the next wave of deaths be counted in dozens or hundreds? There are safer choices. Buy whole heads, especially greenhouse-grown lettuce like Revolution Farms or Little Leaf Farms, where water and soil are controlled. A quick rinse with vinegar and a salad spinner could save you from a hospital bed. For older Americans, local co-ops and farmer boxes often deliver pre-cut greens with traceable sources, safer than anonymous factory bags. But the chilling thought remains. How many vulnerable seniors have already brushed off nausea that was actually a pathogen at work? How many of us are one bite away from becoming the next statistic? If we keep trading safety for convenience, lettuce won't be the food of health anymore. It'll be the food that quietly kills. Number 7. Breakfast cereal. Bright boxes, cartoon mascots, and slogans about whole grains have made breakfast cereal look like the most innocent start to the day. Parents believe they're giving kids energy, and seniors rely on it as an easy, light meal. But beneath the crunch is a darker truth. Cereals are not heart-healthy fuel, they're slow poisons coated in sugar and pesticides, sold through corruption and lies. The most damning evidence comes from glyphosate, the weed killer chemical at the heart of Monsanto's Roundup. In 2022, independent tests showed 21 of 24 popular cereals, including Cheerios, carried glyphosate above levels considered safe for children. Glyphosate exposure has been linked to non-Hodgkin lymphoma, kidney disease, and neurological damage. Bayer Monsanto has already paid over $11 billion in settlements, yet no warning label appears on the boxes. A JAMA study even found cereal eaters had 40% higher glyphosate levels in their urine than non-cereal consumers. Sugar adds another betrayal. In 2023, General Mills faced a lawsuit for labeling cereals healthy, despite up to 12 grams of added sugar per serving. The American Heart Association's Heart Check logo still appeared on boxes. Thanks to millions in corporate payments, the CDC reports 37 million Americans now have diabetes, and studies name sugary cereals as a steady contributor. Imagine a medical seal of approval plastered on the very products that fuel the disease. The human toll behind the supply chain is just as ugly. Reuters uncovered child labor in cereal grain farms. Kids as young as 14 cleaning grain silos, while migrant workers were underpaid and unprotected from toxic pesticides. The smiling tiger and leprechaun on the box hide stories of broken bodies in fields and factories. So why do people keep buying it? Because cereal is survival food. A box costing $3.99 can stretch for a week of breakfasts. Seniors living alone choose it because it's easy, soft, and fast. People know it's junk, but exhaustion and poverty leave little choice. The future looks worse. Insiders warn that by 2026, up to a quarter of cereals could contain synthetic fiber powders and gene-edited grains. Lab creations never tested long-term on humans. With climate stress hitting wheat and corn, companies will double down on genetically engineered crops sprayed with even more chemicals. Will tomorrow's cereal scandal be glyphosate again? Or something we can't even pronounce yet? For safer choices, brands like 7 Sundays and 3 Wishes test free of glyphosate, using legumes and fruit instead of refined sugar. Purely Elizabeth Granola offers organic oats with coconut sugar. Or skip the box, mix bulk oats, nuts, and raisins at home. It's cheaper, safer, and honest. But the thought lingers. How many children are building their bodies on glyphosate and sugar? And how many seniors are spooning daily bowls of heart-healthy lies? If even cereal, the food we trusted most, is rigged against us, what's left in the aisle we can truly trust? If even our most trusted foods hide poisons and lies, what truths remain? Subscribe now and demand answers together.
Thanks a lot for sticking with us to the very end. If you found this video useful, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you won't miss any daily uploads. And now go ahead and explore some of our top recommended videos popping up on your screen. Goodbye and see you in the next one.